Hey, y'all. If you want to head to our website to check out all the different things Pizzazz offers, then just head to pizzazzart.com. That's PZAZZART.com. You will see our online memberships. We've got Kids Club memberships, our Lettering Club membership, our one project a month membership. We call that Paint and Praise. You will see some freebies that we've got there for you, and you'll see our local classes if you're local. So head to the website, check it out, pizzazzart.com, PZAZZART.com. Hey, y'all, this is Casey Hope with the Here's Hope podcast, and we are back with my friend Sarah Driggers. If you have not listened to last week's, go be listening to last week. Sarah is a lifelong friend, not lifelong friend, but from here on out, lifelong friend. We met when our babies were little, and she's just somebody who's got a lot of life to share. And last week we talked about boundaries within relationships, but I have also seen her grow because she manages a business. One of the things that I think that both we were instantly like, oh, let's be friends, is because we were both trying to run businesses and be really good mamas too. So we would try to have play dates and stay at home with our kids and be working too. We were really in those early days trying to figure out how to do all of this, how to be the mamas that we wanted to be on the playground, pushing the babies, having the popsicle play dates, like all the things, and growing our business. And so we just had a lot of learning in those early years that we would go on walks and talk and figure things out. And I think now we're both 16, 17 years into our business. I think there's a lot that we have learned that we can share. So I'm excited to share. If people didn't hear last week, if you want to do a little reintroduction of yourself, just in case this is the first time they are tuning in, feel free. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Okay, I am Sarah Driggers. I'm married to my hot husband, Josh, and we live in the Carolinas where the North and South meet, 20 minutes from Charlotte. So I love it. But I did meet Casey in Alabama, and I now have let's see here, 15. I almost forget. They just get older, but 15-year-old daughter who is a competitive cheerleader and a 13-year-old daughter who is a competitive gymnast. And yeah, I do work a skincare and cosmetic business full time, have built a business for 16 years, and I have the opportunity to mentor and teach women all over the US, lots of different states. And I love working. I love mentoring. I love pouring out what God has given me. And so that's me. And we're besties because we love Jesus too. And we love our families, and we love our business, and we love Jesus.
Perfect. Okay, so when we think about boundaries, being a busy mama, wanting to grow a business, what in the world, like how, I think one thing that people ask you, I feel like a lot of people ask me is, how do you do it all? And I'm always like, feel like that is a crazy question because we don't do it all, but people tend to ask that. So what would you say either to that question, or just like a big life lesson that you've learned over the years of how to have this work-life balance, how to be a good mama and grow your business? What have you seen works?
The first thing, there's a lot of things actually.
Yeah, there are a lot of things.
A lot of things. There's a lot of things. One thing that I believe you have to understand, whatever you're trying to grow, is that successful people never do it alone. Never. Successful people never do it alone. And anybody who tried to tell me different, then I would say you're not going to sustain. Because we only have so much energy. While there is computers and things out there, God gave us one body. And so we have energy, and that energy put into things is given and poured out. And so we have to constantly be aware of what are we putting our energy in. And so I will be honest, when I first started, I had the most amazing mentors. I have the most godly women in my life. I just have to say that. And I'm so grateful that I continuously put myself into environments of wiser, godlier women. And they taught me that before I was where I wanted to be, what help was I getting to put myself there? So we would inconvenience in the very beginning, before I had success, before I had earned any kind of a car, any type of thing. My mentor taught me like to look at my finances and budget my finances in a way that would honor my energy. So if I was spending a lot of time doing laundry or cleaning the house, then that would be energy. And so is that the best energy to grow a business? So there were simple things that I could not be doing that could allow me to put my energy into the right places. Obviously, as we talked about the last podcast, but marriage is an important energy. Nobody should be doing that energy but you. But there's things like housework or other office work that you'll eventually begin to build depending on what type of business you have. So I think in the beginning, it was like, okay, I wanted to be a present mom. That didn't mean that I had to be there all day, but I wanted to be a present mom and doing the most important things with them. So I remember, which is when I met you, Casey, I believe I was either doing a couple days a week with a mom's day out, or maybe my kids had started. I don't think so, because Stacia was definitely in that little bouncer thing. I remember that with you. But we have that's a whole nother day for that. But anyway, so it's just knowing what is the thing at this moment that needs to shift. And so for me, it was like in that season, I just wanted a couple of days where I could have intense focus and still be a very present mom. I wanted to see them walk. I wanted to see, and I'm not saying again that this or that. You get to decide what a present mom looks like for you if that's your goal. I knew what I wanted to be a part of and how much. And I think it's important to know that. So I hope that enough clarity.
Yeah, yeah. So you decided you made these, give a little bit more examples because you're saying that you wanted to be there, be a present mom, but what did that look like for you? Because I can remember you at one point, and I was the same way. Both of us, we were working late nights, we were working on the Saturdays, and I started getting to the point where I was like, oh, I don't want to miss every like Saturday. I don't want to be missing going to birthday parties with my kids and different things like that. And so I started delegating out like somebody else teaching birthday parties at our studio. And I remember you one time being like, I want to be at the soccer games. You started to see the things that you wanted to do. So then you had to like work backwards to figure out how to make that happen.
Yes. So life is fluid and it changes, right? So as my kids started to get older, I had to reevaluate the systems that I was going to be utilizing. So when they were young, when my kids were young, again, before I could afford it, I would not eat out as much. So that way I could build and I would say, okay, I need somebody helping me do laundry. I need somebody who I can count on. My husband was deployed several times and I had the most amazing help. And I had to go through a couple of projects. I would say at times I would hire someone for a project. That's how I'd find someone, see how I felt like they worked in my home. And then if it worked, then I would offer, let's continue this process. So that's a little tidbit there of how to find someone. But again, initially it was laundry. I would have someone cook my meals when the kids were younger. I would have somebody that could drive for me. So those were just some things when they were younger. But as they got older, I began to see even more things in my office. Like, what are things that I could have help with? So, for example, I would say birthdays. Like, I love making people feel special. That is my character. That is who I am. It's important to me. But I'm also very aware of that. And specifically for my personality, memory is not top ranking in one of my skill sets. And so it's not anything. I've learned to not be ashamed of it. I've learned to just understand how I am best wired. So I'm probably not going to remember someone's birthday, even though I want to. I so want to do that. So I have a system set up. I have hired help where I mail from my office. Every customer of mine will get a little note in the mail, but also I have a system where I have a recorded voicemail of me. And so some of my customers might be learning a secret, but that's okay. I love this helpful tip of me personally pouring out my heart. I don't say a name, but I sing happy birthday. I love singing. And so that's delivered to them on their birthday. I have a system set up where it schedules it to them. And then I have a follow-up text that says, hey, girl, did you get my voicemail? Because I want them to know I care about them. That's my character. I didn't have to necessarily remember the day of their birthday, but I could still be my character or have those things. And then teaching someone else to write a thank you note the way I write a thank you note. I know that may sound silly, but for every order, for everything that comes from my office, I want it to reflect my character. And so I realized, even though back in the day, I would be the one that wrote that thank you note, I could teach someone to speak like me and do like me and get that system out and make my people feel important. And so that's one example. But then again, I've also utilized like platform and live recordings. So now I have teenagers that in gymnastics at night and this game and that game where I'm live and working, but I'm not really live and working. There's so many tools out there that now you can utilize that provide you the ability to be able to do that and still honor that. But it definitely took systems and questions. And I love how you said that. You're like, what the little disruptions in the calendar made me reevaluate, hey, I need to do this better. And I have to say this, I also learned my schedule needed to change as kids got older. There were days where I would do pamperings. I called them power days. I would pamper women at 10, 1, 4, and 7 on a Saturday. And then I really wouldn't do a lot during the week because maybe my husband was deployed. And when I say I wouldn't do a lot, I meant a lot of pamperings. I would always work daily. But you have to also be okay that the way that you work your business may look a little different than someone else, but you have to ask yourself, what's working, what's not working, and is there someone else I can train or equip to help release that energy I'm pouring out on a task that is not the most profitable for you? Because for me specifically, the most profitable thing is for me to be with people. That means that I'm pouring out on a camera, or that means I'm pouring out in person, or I'm talking on the phone. But anything that is a task that could be done by another human and me teaching my character and representing me in that way, that is most important, that I can delegate those things, but I'm knowing what I need to be 100% present for.
I love that. Yeah, I think you used to talk about delegation and systems. And I feel like one thing that I hear you saying that I also, Christy Wright is a mentor of mine, and she always says, what's right now? And that's just such a good little quick little saying that can, as you are moving through different seasons, that's what you use to reevaluate what's right now. And so I think like with our business, when the kids were little, it was like whenever I was teaching afternoon classes and I was the only teacher, it was perfect right then because I would stay home with them. And then TR would get off work and I would go to work for a couple of hours and teach all the classes. That was right then. Then as they got older and they started being in school all day and then home in the afternoons, I didn't want my afternoons for me to be gone. Everything flipped a little bit. And there were some years that I still did, but especially when Chloe was getting into those kind of junior high years, I was like, I cannot be gone. I cannot be, as much as I love teaching these afternoon art classes, that's not right now. Like it is not right for me for not to see my kids when they get home from school until a few little minutes before they go to bed. And so that's when we had to, number one, evaluate what's right now. And number two, delegate, like you said, for other people to start teaching those classes. And then the systems, like you talked about, teaching people. I think there's a lie that nobody can do it as good as me. I feel like that is a lie that we tell ourselves, or we think that, and maybe they're not going to do it 100% the same way, but you can train people to do 80% the same way. And so I remember that was a big thing for me whenever I did start letting other people teach our afternoon classes. I would think, oh, nobody can do it as good as me. Then I started realizing, no, that's a lie. That is a lie, Casey. You can systemize what you do. And so I started breaking apart what I did. And one of those things was as simple as when the kids come in, I want there to be good music on. I want a smile and face. I want you to compliment. Like I was noticing the things that I do. Hey, sweetie, come on in. You look so cute today. I love your hair bow. Just little compliments that can immediately lift the spirit. Find something to positively say to a kid as soon as they come in, because you don't know what kind of day they've had. So I started to see the things that I was doing and break them into a system. So then we can train our girls. That's what you do. You have good music on. You're standing at the door. You're greeting them with a smile. You're trying to find something to say, a look, a word, a touch, like all the things. What used to, the lie was nobody can do it as good as you. Now we have created a system for it that it can be delegated so that what's right now is still being honored. I can still have a business that loves on kids and pours into kids, but it doesn't have to be me there because I don't want to miss out on my kids at home. So
Exactly.
that's just another little example there. And sometimes what I know that you teach women in person and you have a lot of visual illustrations that you teach, and I think you've got a good one on just this, on just honoring your time, honoring your energy. Could you explain a little bit of the illustration you do when you are teaching on this in real life?
Yes. Okay. So here's the deal. Imagine you're a solo cup. Okay. I know it's crazy. Imagine you're a solo cup. And if it's a red solo cup, I can't necessarily see what's inside of that. And let's say that you are filling it up with good things and you're only putting the things in there that are your best self, like spending time with the Lord or the task and the delegation that you need to be doing. Okay. That is your best thing. If you don't have that boundary, if you just shove everything, if you're just doing what you said before, Casey, I'm the best one, I can do everything, and I'm the only one who can get it right, then honestly, your cup is going to overflow, but it's not going to be like strategic. It's just going to be like popping over in a hot mess and spilling out, and we don't know where it's going to land. And it's just, there's nothing to it. It's just like me, I've got it all. It's not healthy at all. Now, when you are strategic, okay, and you're putting the right things in, then that means it's not going to overflow because you're aware of how much that you can maintain and what is in your best skill set. So therefore, that you can walk into every room. There's a difference when you're holding a cup and when there's not stress. Like when you're literally just in a room and you've got your drink and you walk differently when it's about to overflow. Like you are like, ooh, you're tiptoeing around. But when you've got a safe amount in there, you are just walking around freely. You can jump around, you can hop around. I mean, it's a different feeling. But here's the biggest thing that I think when we put the right things in, okay, and maybe it's not spilling, but when you get your life bumped, when hard things do happen, when you have life, which you will have as a leader, as a woman, as a mom, as a significant parent, whatever you've got going on, when you go through life, if you get bumped, it's coming out and it ain't going to come out pretty. But if you have maintained and what is going in there, then you put the right stuff in there and the right stuff will come out. Good will come out. But when you have not been putting the right things, so that also goes into making sure you're spending time with a mentor, making sure you're spending time with the Lord, because again, the red cup hides what's in. But if it was clear, we'd know. But you can tell me, I'm doing all these things. But when trouble comes, what is in your cup comes out. And I heard that from Andy Stanley. And that was just such a great analogy. And I teach that often because it's so important to understand that I can only do so much. And there's certain priorities that you have. Again, marriage is a major priority. My business is a major priority. And I've had to say no to things that were good because the enemy of great is good. I had to evaluate the good in my life because it's not just about, am I doing it so I look good? Am I doing it so I can, or is this a priority for my family? And this is the next best thing that's helping me build a leader in my child and her to know the Lord more. And I had to say, there's things I've said no, many good things I've said no to, leading a Bible study in certain seasons. I had to say no to that. Even certain Bible studies I attended because, hey, you know what? That just wasn't the best thing for that calendar. Didn't mean I couldn't be in a Bible study, but maybe just not that one. And there's obviously some other things I've had to say no to, such as being, what do you call this the teacher mom? What do you call it? Room mom. Okay, yeah. Room mom. And I said no to that, even though for me, that was not the best choice because I knew that it would be better for me to volunteer for a chaperone occasionally. I had an assistant who was working in my office doing the task that a room mom would be doing. So for me, it was common sense that would not be a good choice for me, the best choice. But if it's a priority, if it's something that you wanted to do, then you get to figure that out. It's a working, figuring out type of situation. But I think back at the Proverbs 31 woman, and I heard it said that she is what wisdom, how do I say this? That she represented wisdom in action, clothing her life in wisdom. And I don't know what it is about America that we think we need to do everything, but she just did it. Her character, her integrity, like she had systems, she knew who she was, she honored her spouse. She was a machine, but not in an unhealthy way. She just knew that there was things that needed to happen so she could be her best self. And that is truly not just about being her best self, but being the woman she's called to be.
Mm-hmm. I
So,
think it.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, going along with the Proverbs 31, like earlier when you were talking and you said you had somebody cooking your meals, and I was like, "Say what? I do not remember you having somebody cooking your meals. That is a little bougie." It's not like sometimes that is our first reaction is you just think you're all that if you're having somebody cook your meals, but the reality is you were just delegating your time because you couldn't do it all. Your husband was deployed, and so I think it's important to take that that thought process of, oh my gosh, like that's too bougie. You think you're all that if you're delegating. But let's look at the Proverbs 31 woman. She delegated, like you're just saying. Like it talks about her making her own money, having her own business, but also having help. And I think in America, sometimes we look at having help wrong. Like it should just be a normal, we all need each other. All of us, I think we are best in community. And I don't know, I just think that just you talking about the Proverbs 31 woman is just so important to say, hey, she had help and there ain't nothing wrong with having help.
That's right. And the funny thing is, Casey, is that I believe that we have responsibility to develop our talents. I want to give the gifts that God has given me. I want to multiply them. I want to give it for his glory. The truth is there ain't no talent in cooking in this family. So for me, so I'm not ashamed of it. I don't have to live in I don't have to compare myself and think, man, I sure wish that was something I enjoyed. The truth is I don't enjoy it. The truth is my kids miserably eat what I make. And you know what? Like, why? I always say, you know what? There's some signs here. Read them. Read the signs. So you'll be pleased to know we still have that system today. I have someone that in my local area that Monday through Wednesday, we have a meal system where I pick up and we do that Monday through Wednesday. So there's no cooking, there's no cleaning up. We just put it back in. And you know why? Because I'm aware of my gifts and talents. I lean into those and I am not shame. And it's so important that whatever that may be, like shame is not of the Lord. Wherever shame and blame are involved, there's some lack of personal responsibility. So I look at that. And if I'm shaming or if I'm doing that, what do I need to own? And the truth is that I may not go telling everybody about it. I may not, because yeah, you're right. They may think that, but other people's thoughts are none of my business.
Yep.
But also, I want to be accountable to growing the gifts and talents that I am good at.
I agree. Look, for a second, I thought you're bougie. And then I thought, heck, I don't cook. I just have a husband who does. So So really thankful for that. I will say, just a little funny side note. What was I talking about? Oh, I was just saying how since my afternoons are a lot more free now, since we have help at the studio, I said, like for years and years, the reason that TR did all the cooking is because I was working late. I was working until close to 7 and said that's just naturally how it formed. He would do the cooking. And now we just stayed on that system because it's worked for so long. And I mentioned at the beginning of this year, I'm like, I have a lot of help at the studio now. I'm not teaching afternoon classes. Like I could start doing more of the meals. And he slowly looked at me and he said, I don't think any of us really want that, do we?
I would have loved to see his face. Honestly, I can see it, even though not being there. I can see it.
I know you're right. We don't. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. What you're saying. Stay at what you're good at. So
yes, yes.
But okay, so can you give us any specific examples as to what you do? You've already given us some. Give it any other specific examples of any boundaries that you have in place that help with this work-life balance. We know you develop systems, you delegate. Are there any other boundaries that you place on your time, on your calendar, or whatever to establish this work-life balance?
Absolutely. Again, I think knowing your personality and knowing who you are is really helpful. One thing I'm really glad that I've done is I don't just have one assistant. So, as a working woman, I have found I never want to rely on one person. I want multiple people. I think it keeps everybody healthy, and respectfully, everyone's replaceable. Like the Lord could use someone else if I'm not going to be obedient, and I want to be obedient. But I just keep my business that same way. So that way, I don't just have one person doing everything and that person being like all the weights on their shoulders. So if they get sick or if something happens, then I'm like ruined. So that's a great healthy tip. If you have a working business, you're growing it, choose to find multiple people to bless and mentor and also divvy out responsibilities for. But then also something that I do is I use Voxer. It's just a very practical tool that I use. So when I am thinking about something that needs to be done, I send a Vox to my assistant and I just tell her, hey, listen, don't listen to this every day. This, when you come into work for me, you press play because I'm going to Vox you at all times of the day and just silence that. And then when you come into my workspace, then I want you to listen to those things because I need to get it out of me and I need to get out of it immediate. I'm not going to write it down. It's not my personality because then I would lose the paper. But if I box it to you, it's there. It's what needs to be done. We can discuss it when we come into the meeting. So that's one thing also that has helped me. When it comes to family, being in church is a priority. So just being honest with you, like being in a community, church is important for us. It's priority. Having a Sabbath. I've learned to be different with this, but meaning I'm not going to necessarily traditionally do it on a Sunday. That's not because normally we're volunteering, we're pouring out a lot on a Sunday. I volunteer on our worship team at my church. Honestly, it can almost seem like a work day if I'm being honest. So I choose a Friday or a Saturday, but I try to rest and restore and not be doing any activity that is making money for my life. So that is something that I will say I've had to work on year after year because I'm a busy I like to work. But I know that God did create rest for a reason. And I don't want to pretend that's been natural. It's something that my husband is better at than I am. And so he's, hey, you need to rest. And I believe God wants us to rest in him because when we rest, we are trusting what he can do more than what we can do. But those are some more boundaries. When I'm on the phone, again, it's a working boundary. And what I mean by that is that my kids are always learning this one. But when I'm on the phone, don't interrupt me when I'm on the phone. Like I put their hand on me. I had a really great consultant teach me that one time. And I loved it when I'm speaking with another adult, especially when they were young, that they just need to put their hand on me. So I would know that they are there. I can put my hand back on them and say thank you for that. But when I'm finished with this, then I will say thank you for waiting. I loved that. I'm trying to think of any other ones. There's so many. I could spend hours teaching you. I have an in-house assistant who comes in twice a week, but then I have multiple virtual assistants who are popping in all throughout the week, and I could go on.
Yeah. I love it. One thing, if just thinking through, whenever I don't have a personal assistant anymore, but there was a time in my life where I really needed one because I was going crazy. Like literally, like I was having anxiety attack type things. And I remember thinking, I don't know if there's enough to do for now there clearly was, but I didn't know how to define it. And so what I did, and this could be good for anything that you are trying to delegate out. So I started on my notes app. I would make a list as I went out throughout the day. If I had help today, what could I take from my calendar and give to them? And I would just write it out. And I did that for about a week until I could see, hey, every day I'm finding at least 3 hours of stuff that if I had help, somebody else could do. And that really helped me in those years that I had that to know even what to tell somebody if I'm asking them to help, even how many hours, what that's going to look like. So that's one tip on if you are needing to delegate and you're thinking that you don't have enough stuff to do, just keep a what if running notes tab. If I had somebody today, what I would give them, and look at that throughout the week. And that will also help you. Some boundaries that we have that I'll just share in case they help anybody else here at the studio. Finally, at our new studio, I have an office. I haven't had an office for 16 years. There's a lot of times where I was in that back middle room at the downtown studio, just sitting on the floor with my computer in my lap, trying to answer emails as classes are going on in the front and somebody else is teaching it and all the things. So that was crazy town. But now I have an office. And so one thing that we established was like, there are times where I just need to be getting some emails done. I need to not be interrupted. And so just so it's not like something rude, like a boundary is like everybody knows, or they should know, if the door is closed, don't come in because it breaks my flow, all the things. Now, sometimes, especially my kids and TR, they'll still crack it open and come in. But that's one thing. If the door is closed, it's not locked, but if it's closed, please don't knock on it or come in because that's just when I'm doing certain work. I love your tip on the Voxer. We Vox within our group. And one boundary that I try to have, and I'm not great at it, I try to not Vox or text my girl, anybody who works here on the weekends, unless they're working on the weekend. We have stuff going on weekends. But if it's somebody who's completely off, I try real hard not to do that. But then sometimes I'll have these life moments that I want to share or things in my head that I want to to get out. And I love your tip of just saying, hey, don't have to respond to Voxer right now. Because we don't do that. We have Voxer and you hear that little boop and you feel like you've got to respond immediately. But I love that. Just make a habit of checking it once a day. And then that way you don't feel bad just Voxing anytime you want to. Get it out of your head. I think that's great. Great. All right, we are about to wrap this one up. I think we've given several tips and things for people just to think on about how to, as Lisa Turkhurst's book says, how to have the best yes, how to say yes to the things that you are best at. I think we've given some good examples, but do you have any other tangible boundaries or any tips that you want to give as we close out?
I would just say boundaries lead you to a healthier life. And if you are wanting to grow, then you need the systems in place to support it because there is no blow like the one you don't expect to have. And systems will maintain your growth even when you physically can't. That's why systems are so important. That's why delegation is so important. Because when life does throw you for some curves, when you set up strong systems, when you get strong help, then you'll be able to continue to experience sustainability, growth, all the things when you have something in place to allow you to have life. That's what you're doing. You're allowing life to happen, ebbs and flows of being a human, and you're creating things that will give you the chance to sustain it. And again, it's knowing what is my best thing, just like you were saying, what is my best thing to be pouring into, because that will give you the most growth. But the systems, the help, that will help you to be able to keep what you've made, what you've developed. And then when the time is right, when you're again in a place where you can pour more out, then you will be able to continue to grow and not always feel like you're going backwards.
Love it. Love it. Sarah, thank you so much. I've loved chatting with you. I always love chatting with you. You're just encouraging and got so many good little tangible tips and life hacks that you've learned along the way. And I love that you're so generous with sharing it with other people. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, ma'am. Love you, mean it.
I hope y'all enjoyed that podcast. Y'all be sure to go like, subscribe this, leave a review. Let us know how you're liking it. We like that feedback. And if you want to follow us on other social platforms, on Instagram, it's Pizzazz Art Studio. Same for Facebook. And Pizzazz is P-Z-A-Z-Z. Pizzazz Art Studio. Go check us out and see what all we have to offer over there.